Hello everyone and welcome to Star Wars on High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back with our review of the first Star Wars book for 2023, The Battle of Jedha. Now yes, this technically is an audio drama, but the full script version will come out on February 14th, so if you need a great gift for Valentine's Day, well, there you go. The Battle of Jedha by George Mann was definitely an insane story, and one that you need context for before starting. There are many different ways to start reading the High Republic, but the Battle of Jedha is not one of them. Unlike Tempest Runner, which didn't really add too much to the main story of Phase 1, the Battle for Jedha really takes everything we've learned from the first 3 books and the comics released so far in Phase 2 and brings them all together. We learn from the High Republic comic that Jedha is still very much a holy city, housing several individuals from all over the galaxy, all worshipping the Force in their own ways. And at this point in the timeline, they are all on Jedha for a meeting known as the Convocation, and the entire time it's going on, members from the Path of the Open Hand are wanting to have a representative have a seat in the Convocation to share their close-minded views on the Force. While all this is going on, representatives from Eiram and E'Ronoh have gathered on Jedha to sign a peace treaty with the coming together of Prince Fontu Zen and Princess Ziri Albaran. But there are those who do not wish to see these planets come together and would rather see the fight continue, as a terrorist attack takes place during the meeting, killing members on both sides. The delegation is quick to point fingers at each other as to who was responsible for this bombing, and a full-scale riot breaks out as a result, leading to an all-scale battle in the middle of the holy city. That's not all though. While the Jedi work hard to find the culprit behind this attack, the Herald from the Path of the Open Hand speaks out against the Jedi, accusing them of this attack and showing it as a sign that the Jedi are not as all good as they claim to be. Jedi Master Salandra Sho fights to level with the Path, explaining that the Jedi aren't evil and that the Mother's views on the Force are completely skewed, but it is to no avail. The Jedi and the rest of the Force-sensitive beings are left to deal with the monstrous leveler, while the armies of Eiram and E'Ronoh are dispatched to fight each other on Jedha, with the army of the Republic attempting to step in to stop the senseless fighting. The plot is somewhat very convoluted, but having read everything up to this point, I had no trouble following what was going on. The Path of the Open Hand is indeed the real evil in this story, and this entire battle happens to cover up everything that they do. Even though it's proven that the Brothers of the Ninth Door, another religious sect on Jedha, were responsible for the attack on the peace treaty. The whole story really is just full of action and crossing storylines, but it's such an incredible addition to the High Republic. As we see Jedha in Rogue One, it's a wasteland of what was once a great place for the Jedi. In some ways, Jedha is to canon what Korriban was to Legends, planets that had temples for Force users that were destroyed in all-out battles. In Rogue One, we see these massive Jedi statues that are halfway in the ground after falling over, and during the time of this battle, only one is left standing, which is brought down during the war. It's really an emotional scene, and you aren't prepared for all of this destruction that comes out of nowhere. All of the characters involved in this story are so wonderful. We already know the members of the Path of the Open Hand, the Mother, the Herald, Marta Rowe, they all play their roles respectively, and still remain to anger me with their views on the Force and Force users. There's a bunch of great Jedi in this story, such as Creighton Sun and Ada Forte, but Salandra Sho steals the show for me. Her role in Quest for the Hidden City wasn't anything special to me in particular, but seeing her in full-blown action in this story just can't be beat. But my two favorites from this book have to be Keth Sarapath and his droid P-37A. We first met Keth in the first Phase 2 story, New Prospects, which we saw in the 2 issues of Star Wars Insider, so having him back for a full role was really cool, and it felt more special to me, seeing as I decided to read that prior story. His droid P3 is a hilarious character, as he's built out of spare parts from the droids around Jedha, with his vocabulator coming from a droid from the Church of the Force, so he can only speak in scriptures, which adds for great comic relief. Overall, this was a great story. This is also the first audio drama that I've ever actually listened to. I always waited to read the scripts once they came out later on, but this was just incredible. I also didn't have any problems following what was happening, even though sometimes my mind tends to wander, which is why I decided to listen to this audio drama as well as other audiobooks when I'm either driving to and from work or doing basic chores around the house. It helps me focus on the story, and I'm glad it did because there's a lot of great detail and great moments in this story. There were many points where I laughed and a few moments that brought me to tears, but it's because I get so engaged with these stories that my emotions are never prepared. But what were your thoughts on the Battle of Jedha? I think it was a wonderful story. George Mann's writing is perfect and the cast really knocked it out of the park. But be sure to let us know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you to everyone who stuck around to this point in the video, and we hope to see you again very soon.